One of my greatest fears, the thing that keeps me up at night and drives me out of bed at 5:30 every morning, is the fear of not living up to my potential. It's this like deep knowing that I'm capable of so much more, grading against the reality that for at least the last 6 years, I've actually been on the fast track to that fear becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's not because I lack talent or enthusiasm, drive, curiosity, passion, or knowledge. I have all of that. But the thing I've been missing up until now was execution, systems, discipline, resilience, and grit. I wasn't willing to push myself to just do the thing. And after 6 years of trying to figure out what the fuck I want to be when I grow up, and like stopping and starting so many times because I was scattered and unfocused and just completely lacking confidence in my ability to build consistently, I started to believe there was just something wrong with me because I was watching all these other people crushing it while I was getting nowhere. So I started asking myself, well, what am I missing? Like, I know I'm capable of so much more, so how come I'm getting nowhere? And I started dissecting what ultra successful creators had that I didn't. And not in terms of like innate talents or abilities, but in terms of their habits and behaviors, structures, systems, and just their overall lifestyle. And the thing that I saw show up over and over and over again was the skill of self-discipline. This ability to say, I'm going to do the thing and just execute. So this video is all about what I'm calling the freedom discipline paradox. How are these people creating such massive success and complete personal freedom while living these really disciplined lifestyles? So the freedom discipline paradox is that on the surface level, freedom and discipline seem like two completely conflicting ideas. On the one hand, we've got freedom, which is complete lack of restriction. Do whatever you want, eat whatever you want, say whatever you want. And then on the other hand, we have discipline, which is the opposite. It's extreme restriction. But from studying human potential and all these amazing creators who are doing whatever they want with their lives and creating epic things, the thing, like I said, that I saw show up over and over and over again was this skill of self-discipline, control of the self. But it seems like a complete paradox, and it begs the question, well, how much freedom can you actually have if you're living a super disciplined lifestyle? But if we start dissecting these two seemingly opposing ideas, we can see that they actually work together to help us create positive forward momentum. It's this idea of short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Discipline generates options for the future. If you're disciplined today, you're free to choose in the future. David Marra. So for the purpose of this video, I'm talking about specifically personal freedom and self-discipline. So I define personal freedom as autonomy. It's the ability to dictate your own schedule, to create financial freedom, to decide which projects and activities you put your time and energy into, and basically live your life by your own design. But let's start by looking at the dictionary definitions. Like, I love linguistics, and looking at the definitions of words always gives me like a new understanding and a new perspective on words that we use all the time. So let's start with freedom. And for the purposes of this video and our working definition of personal freedom, there's two in particular that jump out at me. So the power of self-determination attributed to the will, the quality of being independent of fate or necessity, and freedom from the state of not being subject to or affected by something undesirable. So freedom is actually about self-determination, which is not that different to self-discipline. It's being able to choose your own path in life. So then when we look at discipline, and we're looking at this as a verb because it's something that we're doing, and we're looking at it through the lens of self-discipline. And so for the context of this video, these are the two definitions that are most applicable. So discipline. Train someone to obey rules or a code of behavior, and discipline oneself to do something, train oneself to do something in a controlled and habitual way. So when we look at them this way, we can see that they can actually pair together beautifully. We can use the tool or the path of self discipline to help us achieve the outcome or the goal of personal freedom. But most of us have a really negative association with the word discipline because we connect it to being dominated by some kind of external authority figure. And so we have this internal friction, which means we can end up sacrificing our own goals because we're unintentionally rebelling against being that authority figure for ourselves. But if you can remove that internal resistance to the idea or the concept of self discipline or self control, it means you have the ability to live by a self determined code of behavior. You get to cultivate that from inside yourself instead of it being dictated to you by some external force. It means that you're choosing the code of behavior and then disciplining yourself to follow it because you want more freedom. Like imagine you're a ship. Self discipline is the means you have of steering that ship towards your desired destination. And without it, you're just at the whim of the waves and the wind, and you have no control over where that ship is heading. But I would also argue that too much of either of these isn't healthy either. Like if we have too much freedom, that can lead to things like overconsumption, time wasting, and eventually like sabotaging your own goals. And then too much discipline can lead to rigidity, possibly malnutrition, and like shutting down your vitality and enjoyment of life. And I've got this quote by David Marra that shows us exactly how too much freedom can be negative. With freedom comes consequences. If you're free to buy whatever you want, you blow through your money. If you're free to eat whatever you want, you purge on junk food and feel like crap. If you're free to say whatever you want, you run the risk of being punched in the face. So when we can have them like playing together and interweaving, we have the ability to enforce our own code of behavior on ourselves so that we can create positive forward momentum in our lives and move towards the things that we really do want. And I don't know what the magic formula is, but I do know over the last 2 years of my own experience diving really deep into like self-control and self-discipline that when I go too far into the freedom side of things, it's way too easy for me to lose all that positive momentum that I've built. And then it's really hard to build it back up again. So it's about finding that sweet spot where you're actively practicing self-control without being a complete killjoy. Although if you ask me, the satisfaction of watching yourself grow and expand and become a better version of yourself is the greatest joy in life. And as Stephen Kotler says, when we're steering our own ship, we're more focused, productive, optimistic, resilient, creative, and healthy. So I want to give you guys something practical you can take away from this video so you can start applying this knowledge in your own lives. So I've got a really powerful framework for you that I'm calling the domino framework. And the first step is find your first domino. So just like when you push over dominoes, the first one knocks over the next one, knocks over the next one, and so on. If you can find that first domino for yourself, the thing that's going to have the most impact and hone in on that, it's going to have a natural knock-on effect to every other area of your life. For me, my first domino is physical training. Through a lot of trial and error, I've found that when I prioritize working out over everything else, it naturally elevates the rest of my life. When I'm working out more, I naturally want to eat better. I start prioritizing my sleep. I'm better with my time. I'm more creative, more confident, so I put myself out there. You get the picture. But for you, it might be diet, or it might be prioritizing your creative practice. You've got to explore and figure it out. Like I said, for me, it took a lot of trial and error. And I would say just try a few things, but try them for a good couple of weeks. So pick something, do it for 2 weeks. And if it's not having that natural knock-on effect, maybe it's not your first domino. So try something else. So the next step is follow the real dopamine. Human beings are hardwired for exploration, hardwired to push the envelope. Dopamine is largely responsible for that wiring. Stephen Kotler. So, this is about finding what you actually enjoy doing, not what you think you enjoy doing and not what someone else has told you to do. Because when we get a neurochemical reward for a habit or behavior, we're naturally inclined to want to repeat it. And instead of trying to force yourself to follow someone else's strategy, you need to listen to your own DNA, your own biology, the things you're naturally drawn to, because that's where the real dopamine is. And when there's real dopamine, repeating the behavior is going to become so much easier. So for me, once I identified that physical training was my first domino, I started doubling down on that. I started making more time in my schedule to prioritize movement. I started exploring with new types of movement. I started finding what I actually enjoyed doing so that the motivation to do it was almost effortless. In fact, once I found jujitsu, I actually have to motivate myself to not do it, like when I fucked my knee, but that's a whole other story. So the next step is build new systems. So now that you've identified what you're doubling down on, it's time to start rearranging your life to make it a priority and just do it. No excuses. Like it's going to take, as with any habit, any behavior, it's going to take a certain amount of repetition to move it from being something you have to push yourself to do to something that's just part of your routine. Your habits are often a byproduct of friction and convenience. Humans are wired to seek the path of least resistance, which means the most convenient option is often the winning option. Make good choices more convenient and bad choices less so. James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's an excellent book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. The more perceived obstacles there are to a new habit or behavior, the more likely your brain's just going to talk you out of doing it. Like it's just going to say, don't follow through, it's too hard, let's just take this path of least resistance. So start asking yourself things like, what can I do to streamline this new behavior? What are the biggest perceived obstacles that would stop me from following through? How can I minimize resistance to this new habit? And what micro habits can I create to support this new habit? So I'm going to wrap it up there. I could go very deep into this topic, and I have, but this is just the first video in a series I'm going to do, kind of on the vein of the idea of self-leadership. Because, like, we can't deny the fact that the world has changed. We live in the creator economy, which means we have the ability to create our own lives and literally bring whatever we want into the world. But that doesn't come without sacrifice. You know, it's being able to build the skills of things like self-leadership, discipline, and being able to direct your own mind, your own consciousness, and your own behaviors towards the end of your choosing. So it's something that I'm trying to master in my own life. And so I wanted to bring it to you guys because I don't think I'm the only one that struggled with these things. So yeah, I'm going to be going much more in detail about these kind of ideas. So thanks for being here. I love you guys so much, and I'm really, really grateful for all the support. And yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, I've actually written an ebook which you can grab for free. The link is just in the description below. That's all about what it actually takes to thrive in the creator economy. And I think it's things that most people aren't talking about because they're not really sexy. You know, things like discipline and grit and resilience, they're not the sexiest of things to be talking about. But I think they are so important and so fundamental to us being able to make the most of the opportunity that we have right now, which is to literally live life on our own terms. I honestly believe that is available to every single one of us. But like I said, it doesn't come without sacrifice. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you're still here right at the end, I appreciate you a lot. And I will see you in the next video. Mwah.